they can't afford, they can't
Yep.
get it from the doctors. They can't afford the price of it. And then the stuff that they selling out there is not the real thing
No.
anyway.
Mm-mm.
And then when they run out of money everywhere, they just go to the cheaper thing that's more
Yep.
powerful.
And I was like, "Ugh."
Right.
And I just remember, like, crying, like,
Mhm,
letting it out, like, "I
mhm,
feel like crap. I wanna get home. This is
mhm.
my 3rd rehab, like, I shouldn't even been back here. I was mad at myself."
Let's get to it. Today on this episode, we got someone very, very special. We have Carrie with us. Hey, Carrie, how you doing?
Very good, very good. How about you, Ben?
Good. I'm hanging in there. So it's definitely an honor to have you on here, especially the way we met.
Yeah.
I just want to, let the audience know, like, on this episode, I met Carrie in treatment.
Mhm.
And I remember it was like maybe her second or third
It was
day
my
there.
2nd day.
Yeah, and I was at that treatment center, and I was actually just doing some service work, going back to share for the patients like I always do. And on this particular day, I seen you, Carrie, sitting up in the front,
Mhm.
and I knew like you was one of the newer ones that was there, and I seen you and you looked like you was just going through something. And at
Yeah.
that time, I was like, maybe I should call on her and figure out, like what's going
Yep.
on. Because I think it's very important that when you call on people, that some people, like when they knew they don't want to share,
Yeah.
so they might be having a tough time. And I try to call on people and, let them get that out because I believe whenever you get that out and you don't sit on it, that
Yeah.
that's a good thing because once you relieve yourself, you feel so much better.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
at that time, I called on Carrie, and she spoke. You spoke from the floor, and you was telling us how you just got in there, and that you were going through your detox and stuff like that. And I can honestly say, almost 2.5 years later, you're still sitting here.
Yep.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So it was my 2nd day. I was really starting to go through, like, the detox. It was rough. And I have lupus, so it was, like, extra rough. So I was just going through it, and I did not wanna go to that meeting, but I always was told because 'cause I'd been in and out of the rooms, "If you don't wanna do it, that means you should do it."
Right.
So I was like, "I don't feel good in this bed." It just felt worse laying there
Right.
feeling
Exactly.
like, it feels like your body's, like, I don't know, falling apart and crumbling at the same time. So I kicked myself in the butt to get down to this meeting, and I came down late, so I got front row, and I was like, "Oh, man." So I'm trying not to make eye contact with you because 'cause you're with Henry,
Right.
and
Exactly.
Henry kept looking at me, and he just kept pointing, and I'm, like, just shaking my head, like, trying to hide from both of them, like, "Please don't look at me. Please don't
Right.
call on me."
Hmm.
And, he kept looking like, "You've gotta say something," and then he looked at me, he's like, "God said you gotta speak," and,
Uh-huh.
like, you were like, "You," and I was like, "Ugh,"
Right.
and I just remember, like, crying, like, letting
Mhm,
it out, like, "I
mhm,
feel like crap. I wanna get home. This is
mhm,
my 3rd rehab, like, I shouldn't even been back here. I was mad at myself. I was embarrassed."
mhm.
And I was just like I just let it out, and it was, like, so much relief because 'cause I'd never really done that.
Right.
Like, I'd always say certain things or, like, I'm not shy to speak, but, like, when it came to that, it was, like, embarrassing for me to say at the time, like, it was, like, to get out, "I'm an addict that belongs to sit in the seat." It was very hard for me to
Right,
say.
right, and I'm a true believer of that, because I remember before I would just sit on stuff and I didn't
Mhm.
want to like express, or I can just be in the meeting or
Yeah.
something, and so many things are going on, but I'm not there to focus on my disease, so I'm not raising my hand, I'm not sharing anything.
No, yeah.
But the minute that I actually raise my hand and participate in my recovery, then once I get done, I feel like a little better. I'm like, wow, and I
Yep.
try not to get too much in my head. I'd be like, wow, I done it. I don't care about what people think about what I said. I know I feel better. Even now, like, we talking in front of a big audience now, people watching this.
Yeah.
I don't care about, what people think or what I say. I know that once I'm done, when we done this interview, wow, I done something for my recovery.
Right.
I feel a lot better that I got this done. So that's the reason why, I like to say I pick on people and I
No, I'm
call,
glad you did. I'm glad you
yeah,
did. It
yeah,
started my recovery, and I tell everybody that story. You're my God
absolutely.
moment, because we ran into each other later. But like,
Uh-huh.
I always say you were my God moment because I just was not ready to speak. And I don't know that I would have been able to if you hadn't
Exactly.
called me out like that.
Exactly, and sometimes you can be sitting on that, and next thing you
Hmm.
know, like me, my mind would tell me, "You know what? I don't have to be here. Let me go back out there." And my favorite thing is, the drug dealer will always listen to what I have to say.
Yeah.
When I come to him with a sob story, they know they get my money. They'll
Yep.
listen to whatever. So they're
Yep.
like, "Yeah,
Yep.
you're there." So like, that's why I try to like call on people and let them know that it's all right. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody can't, like reach out and talk at them particular times, but just to raise your hand and say your name, at least
Yeah.
you've done something, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, that's exactly why I called on you, and I'm just proud to see, like, 2 years later you're still in this process. It goes to show how this program works.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Right. And with me always trying to help people, I was like, I call on anybody, like I don't care. Like
I know.
if I see somebody or something going on, I'm just gonna call on them. I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk to them after the meeting. And a lot of times when I do share, people come to me afterwards and be like, you shared a good message, and then they want to open up their relationship and start recovering by some of the
Yeah.
things I said. So that's kind of a good thing too. So like I said, once I seeing you around, it was when I went to
R&D.
R&D,
Yeah.
and then after that, you was there, and you was like, "Hey, I
Yeah.
remember," and then you the hat guy. You
Yeah.
who kicked your cat out the house,
He threw his cat out of the house.
Yeah.
That's part of the story that I never forgot.
So like all those stories and like that's just great to see how this works, because even after I came to R&D and shared there, it wasn't until I started getting involved with TikTok, and I had seen you on there, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't been seeing you in a while, and I just seen you talking all this stuff about recovery, and I still didn't even recognize that was you at the time. And I was like, whoa, this person is like really, really talking about recovery. And I had reached out to you. It was like, hey, it's Carrie, And I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
tell people all the time, like, how we initially met, like, how it was, like, one of the worst meetings ever, like, one of the worst experiences, like, and I was, like, I felt like I was at my lowest, and you didn't make me feel like that after I spoke, and then I said, like, and then months later at a recovery center, like, R&D, nowhere near where I met you the first time,
right.
there you are again, and I'm like, "There's no way that anything else would have brought us together like that, but, like,
Exactly.
this recovery thing."
Exactly.
So I would tell everybody, and then when you came back and spoke with me that time, I warned them, I'm like, "He will
Yeah.
call on you.
Yeah.
He will
Exactly.
call on you, so better
Yeah.
get your hand up."
Yeah, and I thank you for for calling me, because like at that particular time you were doing so much in your own recovery, whereas though you were taking the meeting back into that same treatment center where I met you at
Yep.
and asked me to come share for you. And it's always an honor to go back to any place and share,
Yeah.
because I know, like, when I was in them treatment centers and someone from the street came in, and when I seen them come in there, it gave me hope.
Mhm.
I might could have been having a bad day,
Yeah.
but when you see somebody that comes off the street and take some time out of their busy schedule to come in there and help somebody, that says a lot.
Right.
Because when I was using, I was selfish. It was all about me.
Oh,
It didn't
yeah.
have
Yep.
anything to do with like going back to help anybody or nothing like that. It
Yep.
was me, me, me. And now I take a lot of time out. I go all over the place now. I'm not just talking about in Pennsylvania. I go out the state. I'm going
Yeah, I'm
everywhere.
always following
Trying,
you.
yeah,
Love
just
following
trying to,
your journey.
yeah, just trying to help people. And it's an awesome thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and I see you putting a lot of work in on TikTok. What's your TikTok? What's your TikTok following all about?
I just hit 3,000, so I think I'm at, like, 3,030 right now, which doesn't sound like a lot, but to me, that's 3,000 people that maybe are getting the message of hope, that
Exactly.
maybe know somebody that's in this seat that's like, "Hey, maybe I can help them." 'Cause and for me, it helps me too, which I know, again, sounds like another selfish addict thing to say, but if
Right.
I'm helping them at the same time, it feels like so much more rewarding, and I feel like by doing that, I'm getting myself, like, unburdened, and I'm showing them, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Absolutely.
There's more of us than there's not, and, like,
Absolutely. Huh.
you are loved, you are supported, and you are worth this, like.
Right. Yeah. And that's just a great thing, because I do see your numbers on there, like they constantly going up, and you always giving a good message about recovery. And I'm just like, that's awesome, because like me doing the same thing,
Mhm.
it gives me hope every time I go on TikTok and I see you on there. It's like, wow, I need to put something up too. You know what I mean? And I love feeding off of that, because I mean it's so much going on. Sometimes I get lazy, and
Yeah.
I'm like, TikTok is the last thing I need to be worrying about,
Yeah.
when I really should be worrying about that more, because
Right.
it reaches out and spreads out so much further. But I see all them positive messages on there, and it says like, wow, this is somebody I helped out, two
You
two
did.
years ago, and look what she's doing now. So like, I applaud you for that. And
Thank you.
I was
You led the
watching.
way on that one, though.
I appreciate that, right? But I was watching one episode when you were talking about how having kids,
Mhm.
and how is, dealing with you having kids, and I have kids also, like dealing with kids and how you have to be there for them also, how they have to understand,
Yeah,
the disease of addiction, how taking time away from them and actually being there and spending time with them now, being
yeah.
back in their life. You want to speak on that a little bit?
So, you know, in the beginning, people are like, "Send them to Al-Anon, send them to things like that," and I just felt like, I wanted them to hear it from me, but I
Hmm.
couldn't. It was conversations I wasn't ready to have alone yet.
Right.
So my older 2 are over 18, so I bring them to the meeting that I do at the rehab facility 3 times a week, and
Mhm.
they'll come with me any given day, and they just listen,
Right.
and they'll say, like, "I'm willing to answer questions," and, like, always on the way home, they'll say things like, "I didn't know you felt like that," or "I
Uh-huh.
didn't know it was like that," or we didn't understand or we thought it was about us. Like
Right.
they just always leave like so much more knowledgeful of like it had nothing to do with them.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
if it was about to do to them, I would have never been in the seat in the first place. If it was just
Right.
about getting clean for your kids, this would have never been a problem
Hmm.
because that
Hmm.
it's that simple.
Right.
But it's not that simple. Like you have to do it for yourself. And I had to,
Exactly.
say like this is where I'm going. And I wanted to show them where I was going. Like
Hmm.
every night, 3 times a week I go there. So I wanted to say like I'm not leaving you to go do stupid things anymore. I'm
Right.
leaving you to help other people and this helps me and this helps you
Hmm.
so I can be the mother you deserve.
Right, and I can agree with that 100%. Like, I have 2 kids, and being back in their life,
Mhm.
like the most important thing that they want to see from me is like, Dad, you going to that meeting, you're doing that, because like prior to that, when I was using, I was just taken away from them,
Yeah.
and like they probably didn't show it emotionally at the time, but I can tell, I
Yeah.
mean, they're my kids, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they wasn't happy because I come in and I'm popping in, I'm popping out because I'm probably just trying to steal something out the house or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
or just still in time. I'm not doing the certain things I normally would do, like going out or going to sporting events like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when I got myself together, like my kids, every anniversary that I had, they're there all the time. And they actually looking forward to this one. They're like, Dad, are we having that thing? Are we going out afterwards? I'm like, God willing, when I get there, we will do that again.
Yeah.
And it just shows like a whole lot when you get your kids back in their life,
Yeah.
and they see that, and then they can understand, because now they're at the age where I can tell them like what was going on, and then also teach them like that's not always the way. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I done this for you already. You don't have to go out there and experiment with
Yeah.
these drugs. So
That too. I kind of like hope that I put the fear of God in them a little bit when they
Mhm.
come to an inpatient facility because people kind of love that they're there too. Like other parents are there too, and they're like, "Don't be here like us." So like
Uh-huh.
they'll take that chance to stay after and be like, "Don't do that." Like your mom did all the hard. Your parents did the hard work for you.
Right.
Like don't
Exactly.
do any of that.
Right.
And they do leave like yeah, like it scares them a little
Hmm.
bit. Which
Hmm.
all like honestly, I'll take fear. I
Right.
will take fear over them testing something.
Exactly. And I kind of look at that like, with the drugs, I don't even call it drugs no more, with the poison that they out
Yeah.
there selling.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like if you can just see, and a lot of people do see what's going on out there in the streets, people that's like, suffering from the disease of addiction, but the life that they live in, you know what I mean? When I look back at it now, I thank God
Yeah.
that I'm not out there, But me personally with having this disease, I know what it's like, but I'll still take that risk to go out there, knowing what it's doing to other people, to
Yep.
think that I can conquer that. But when I look at my kids, like I was somewhere with my son, and he was like, "The smell of that weed is so strong. I got to get away." And I was like, "That's a good sign."
Yeah.
The fact that he don't even like the
Yeah.
smell of it,
Yeah.
and just the fact that they're aware of it. And I tell them time and time again, like I was a kid. I experimented with
Right,
things,
right.
but things was a lot different then.
Right.
And I just thank God that like now they just see what's going on. They say like, I really don't want to be in that situation. And I tell them like, yeah, you might not want to be in there, but if you experiment with them type of things, there's a good chance that you can get hooked on there.
Right. You might not have a
Yeah.
choice in the matter, and that's what we always try to tell them, like, you don't know you're an addict when you start.
Right.
No one ever just says, like, "I
Uh-huh.
want that life." No one
Right.
chooses to be an addict.
Hmm.
Like, some people are prescribed. In fact, most people
Oh
nowadays
yeah.
have been prescribed.
Uh-huh.
That's my story. That's where my
Hmm.
story started. So I would have never thought I'd be here, but, like, it's like I try to explain, you don't wanna do it. So even when you take that first, you have no
Uh-huh.
say in the matter what it does to your body if you're an addict or not.
Exactly.
You just have to kinda now you know, and now it's too late. Usually
Yeah,
you're in it too deep.
exactly. Yeah, and I believe that firmly because like what I'm seeing now is a lot of people that was prescribed, that they can't afford, they can't
Yep.
get it from the doctors, they can't afford the price of it, and then the stuff that they selling out there is not the real thing
No.
anyway.
Mm-mm.
And then when they run out of money everywhere, they just go to the cheaper thing that's more
Yep.
powerful, and next thing you know, they all are. So
Yeah, and that was
yeah.
my story.
Hmm.
Like once I was, when I was diagnosed with lupus, it was like 12 years of prescriptions.
Hmm.
And then, couldn't, like when you got cut off, like when everybody cracked down, you're stuck then,
Yeah,
and like the
exactly.
thought of recovery never crossed my mind, even though like I'd known in my head I was an addict, but I'd
Hmm.
never said it out loud. And like I always kind of told myself I was an addict of circumstance. Like I made justifications
Uh-huh.
in my head
Hmm.
until it was like, you can't talk yourself out of this one. Like
Right.
you've hit bottom. This is
Right.
bottom.
And it's funny that you say that because I was just at a doctor's appointment yesterday, right? And the doctor was asking about that, do you drink? I'm like, no, I don't drink. Are you allergic to any medications? And I said, yeah, I'm allergic to narcotics.
Yeah.
And he was like, why? I said, because I was, using drugs. I said, I'm going on 4 years clean. And that just turned the whole conversation around. He's like, congratulations. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because doctors like to see that,
They do.
Yeah, they like to see that progress. And that's like amazing. And before I wasn't going there to tell the doctors. I was going there to tell the doctor, like, I'm in so much pain
Yeah.
that I need
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
narcotic or something. And things
Yeah.
is different now. And I kind of like I I'm taught these things now and my tools that I better let these people know because I mean having a severe injury with my shoulder right now,
It's painful.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of
It
drugs they could
is.
have
Yeah.
gave me, but I didn't want to take that risk. You know what I mean? I just deal with it, but the injections that they give me that's not narcotic and just deal with the pain that way because this pain that I'm going through now is nothing compared to the pain when I was using.
Yep. Yeah.
And I have to know, like, if I don't tell these doctors that they'll force it on me,
Oh yeah.
and next thing you know, one little pill make you feel good, and then you're right back out there.
Yep.
So, and I do understand people do need certain medications
Right.
while
Right.
while
Right.
they're in there. That's but it's just a matter of taking them as prescribed.
That's the problem. And if you're an
Right?
addict, I mean, again, you don't know until you know, and then it's too late. You're already in it too deep. There's no
Exactly.
slowing the train down. It's already derailed.
Right.
But
Hmm.
I do the same thing. I always tell people, tell on yourself. One of the first things when I called for my new rheumatologist was I am an addict in recovery
Hmm.
because I just wanted to know like, out the gate, don't even talk about those meds. I didn't want them to be a trigger. I didn't want them on the table. I just
Right.
wanted her to know. And like I must have said it like 4 more times in that appointment. Like she's probably like, I
Hmm.
heard you. I'm like, I'm saying it for me too.
Exactly.
Because if she would have said something in just such a way, I
Hmm.
always worry with that addict brain twisted into justification again.
Exactly.
So I don't even want it on the table.
Right, and that's part of it, like, I have to tell and I feel good when I say that
Yeah,
and say it over and over again because one of the biggest things was I never ever wanted to let nobody know that I was an
it's
addict,
the truth. Yeah,
and the fact that I have to go around and tell people that, I just wouldn't I wouldn't tell nobody.
yeah,
So that kept me out there longer and longer, but now the fact that, I am who I am,
yeah,
and
yep.
I know that I don't want to go back to being in that state. So the last thing I'm gonna do is go in there and tell a doctor or that that
Yeah,
I'm not addicted to drugs,
right.
because next thing you know they'll give it to me. But yeah, I feel proud of that and I can say that. And not only that, when I walk out that doctor's office, they nobody might not realize how good I feel by telling on
It's
myself,
the truth. You do.
and
You
that's one of
do.
the biggest things I do now when I tell on myself and help myself because I know it's not just by like, trying to doctor shop doctors for drugs, but it comes on everyday living. When I
Yeah,
do anything that the thought might be something negative and I do something positive, I might get in my car and be like, wow, I like the way I done it, the way I handled that because I changed my way of living
yep.
around and my way of thinking. Because before I would do something and that would lead me right back to using because
Yeah,
I feel like, oh, I got away with something. So I keep doing that. Next thing you know, I'm right back in that same, using all over. So like every time I do something good, and which is a lot, I
yeah,
pat myself on the back. So I get a
yeah.
lot of pats on the back now, so
I do the
that's
same
good.
because I feel like I beat myself down for so long, like during my addiction that I have to like celebrate the wins. Like
Hmm.
even if it's a little
Absolutely.
small win that like I came out of there and I was honest with my appointment because like I always say, like, I didn't like people talk about how they craved the life, like they were addicted to the life. I craved this life. I
Hmm.
craved normalcy so
Hmm.
bad, but I
Exactly.
just didn't know how to get it. Like,
Right.
even though the rooms were there and stuff, it was like scary to say out loud you're an addict because no matter what we do, it felt like that's all we would ever be to people.
Hmm.
So that's why I think I'm so loud about my recovery. Like, if I'm going to be an addict, let me be in recovery.
Right.
Like, let me show you some hope. Let me show you what we can really do,
Yeah.
besides the bad side of it,
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that 100% because like my life now, it's amazing, you know.
Yeah,
And like I said earlier, I don't care about what nobody think or nothing. I mean, like this is who I am. This is who I'm going to continue to be. And making these decisions to do stuff, like one thing I can say is my life is so much better now than what it ever's been
it's the truth.
because
Me
I
too.
travel, you know, I have my family back. I have a nice house that I live in. You know, I have a new cat, you know, like all these things. I care about things, you know.
Yeah.
So like, you know, and that's how I want to live now. I just want to be just like stress free and just living a good life. And like I said, I don't really have a bad day ever. I just have a
Yeah.
really good day, like because I know that I'm going to do something for my recovery. I'm going to talk to people. I'm on the now, like every single day, I'm putting stuff up on social media, and
Yeah.
just doing that alone, that helps me participate into, you know, my recovery. So
It's an
yeah.
everyday thing. I think that's like sometimes people go in there, they're like, I remember somebody saying, like, "How long do I have to do meetings?" I said, "How long do you want to stay clean?"
Hmm.
I said, you might not have to go every day for the
Right.
rest of your life." I'm like, "But you need to stay in touch with your recovery because that stinking thinking creeps right back in and
Right.
then you're right back where you started." I said, "Just takes work, everyday
Hmm.
work,
Hmm.
because this is who you've been ingrained for so long. It's not just about whatever the poison was. It's
Right.
why I did what I did, what the poison did for me, which was silence the noises in my head. Like, so they will come back if you don't keep working, whatever it is that you're working your recovery, like, because you need to keep working, talking, getting it out,
Exactly.
like sharing it with others, because we don't get to keep it if we don't give it away.
Exactly.
That's the biggest
And
thing.
and I'm a prime example that, you know, like even traveling, you know, when I
Yeah.
travel on vacation and things like that, it's not just a vacation because when I plan where I'm gonna stay at and I plan to rent a car and I plan the things I'm gonna do, I also plan a meeting that I'm gonna make. And I also plan like people I'm gonna call and just in case
Yeah.
because I can't not take my recovery with me where I go. So
It's
every
truth.
time I go somewhere, I'm always taking that with me where I have people on call, you know, because there's situations that go on. I just had a situation when I was in Miami. You know, the car wouldn't start up, and this is like 3 hours out and 4 hours out of my morning that I was supposed to be
Jeez.
going somewhere that I
Yeah.
had to wait for a tow truck, and I had to go one place to get another rental car. They didn't have none there, and they sent me to another place. And back then, that would have been a
Oh,
really good
yeah.
reason to stop somewhere in the hood in
Yeah.
Miami
Yeah.
and get something to take away
Cannot
the
deal with
pain.
it. Yep.
Right. But instead, I called some people and was like, "You ain't gonna believe what happened."
Yeah.
Can you believe that, like, this the second time I was in Florida and had the same
Oh
thing
no.
happen to me, the rental car broke down and not wanna use, you know? And
Our son's car last week went. He just got a
yeah,
brand
I
new
did.
car,
I
and the
heard
wheel
about
fell
that.
off.
Thank God everything
Yeah,
worked
and
out
but,
with
like,
that,
I did
yeah.
the same thing, like, I remember, like, thinking, "This would have totally been a, like, let me walk away for a minute moment," where
Mhm.
because I just couldn't, it was too big to feel the consequence of what coulda happened, like, you start thinking about that stuff, and I thought, like, this would have been a perfect moment that I would have stepped away somewhere because
Right.
I wouldn't have been able to deal with it
Yeah.
the right way, and
Uh-huh.
now, like, I'm just sitting there, we're dealing with it as it comes, like, it's just hitting, and we're just, like, normal people handling
Right,
problems, you know
right.
what I mean?
And I often thought when I was using, I was like a problem
Yeah,
solver or that like, let me
yeah,
go get loaded real quick and I can handle that
yeah,
problem. You
it's the
know, I
truth,
probably
yeah,
was making a behind out of myself and stuff like that. You know,
yeah,
but now you know I can think so much better, and at least I know that I'm making somewhat of a good decision,
right.
or I can call some people and ask for help. You know, if I don't know all the answers. So
Yeah,
I
and you
believe
feel
in
good
that
about
too.
it. You, like, leave those decisions feeling like you made a difference, whether it's for yourself, like, in your day or in somebody else's day. The
Hmm.
decisions we made before helped nobody. They didn't even help ourselves, like, honestly, like, right? I mean, most of the times we weren't getting anything out of it anyway besides just trying to survive. Like,
Exactly.
so definitely wasn't anything good there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like are you other than going back to, you know, I know you do your thing at RCA, are
Mhm.
you going to any other like facilities and sharing there or anything like that to get the message out?
I do. I go, I help my friend with a Sunday. Can I say the names? Can I
Yeah.
say them?
Hmm.
Crozier Keystone in Chester.
Hmm.
On Sundays. I help her like every here and there, which I'm supposed to do the next 2 Sundays for.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
sometimes like I'm in service minimum of 3 days at RCA, and then I'll help her with Crozier Keystone
Yeah.
once, yeah,
Yeah,
a week.
and I know while you're doing that, that this makes you feel so much better. You know, like it just
It
takes the
does.
time away from, you know, like wanting to use and stuff like
Oh,
that. Like
yeah.
you said, when you see me at R&D, like whenever Rachel calls me, I'm there.
Yep.
And then sometimes I call her, I'm like, I think it's about time I need to get there because I know I need to go back and help people, and get that
Yeah.
message out. And I love when you guys, when I come and you like, everyone don't want to participate, but when I'm done sharing, mostly everybody wants to
Oh, yeah,
participate,
always. Yeah.
because I'm giving them a good message. And you know, I went to one treatment facility for somebody, and they was like, "Oh, well, after you're done sharing, nobody really want to raise their hand. They just want to go back and go back to you and go smoke or whatever." And when I got done sharing, everyone in there raised their hand, and the guy said afterwards was, it's about the message. When you
Yes.
give them a good message, that makes them want to participate in their recovery. And I do believe that I have the gift. That's why I have
You
this
do.
podcast now. Like I want to get this message out to people and let them know, like, you don't ever ever have to suffer. Like,
You don't.
you can, it might be hard going through the detox, you know what, but I think
It
it's
passes.
harder
Yeah.
every single day out
Absolutely.
there using, because I was in the same situation every day. When I was in detox, it was so bad, but I was getting better
Yeah.
every single day. And I stopped thinking about, like, oh, this medicine is not working that they're giving me for the detox and all that. I started saying, you know what, it's going to be better. And it was a direct result of when I did get able to go to some of the groups and seeing people coming from off the streets to come back in and give the message. That's what helped me and gave me a little bit of strength. Or
Yeah.
just seeing people that was already there a little longer than me, and they was up walking and been through the same thing. I said, if they can do it, then I know I can do it. So
Yeah.
I try to continue to go back into these treatment centers. That's a real big thing of mine, to let somebody know that, you may feel like you want to leave today, but stick it out, because I was in that situation. Tomorrow is going to be better.
Yes.
And you tell somebody like that, before you know it, it's like, oh. And then when you see them later on down the
Yeah.
line, and they be like, thank you for telling me to stay. And that makes me feel so much better.
It's true, and it's the authenticity. I think people like that you're real about it. Like, people, I think, tend to sometimes wanna sugarcoat it or like, just highlight certain parts, but it's not always easy, and you need to highlight that. Like, in the beginning, it's gonna be tough, like, the detox isn't the
Mhm.
greatest, like,
Right.
but you keep doing these right things, and it'll get easier, and then there'll be a day where you'll be like, the obsession has been lifted, and you won't even realize it's happened, and you've lived
Absolutely.
like that so long that it just sounds so preposterous,
Hmm.
but you gave so much hope in the way that you told it that I remember, like, feeling like, all right, he makes me feel like this thing's doable.
Right.
What I've been missing is not opening my mouth. Like, I
Hmm.
got to stop being ashamed of being an addict, and I just got to do this thing. Like, it
Right.
is what it is at this point. I am an addict, whether I own it or not. So
Hmm.
let me own it
Hmm.
and let me see what I can do with it. And it was just your authenticity of saying, like, hey, there was bad days, there was good days, but I'm here, I'm smiling.
Right.
It is still better than using. And I tell them that today. Like, I still use that message that you left me with that day, which was, no, I have no days today that are that bad that are still not my best day using. Like, every day today is 1,000 times better than
Exactly.
the best day when I thought everything using lined up. Like,
Exactly.
like, and I tell them that, and I'm like, you're not going to believe me. And you're not going to believe me till you start doing it. But once you start doing it, and like, I remember that message of a life beyond your wildest dreams and stuff. I'd be like,
Right.
but like, it is a life beyond your wildest
Hmm.
dreams. And it's,
Hmm.
you find it in yourself.
Right.
Like, you find this worth in yourself that you never knew you had,
Hmm.
and you start seeing what other people have been telling you about yourself that you've been not listening to, or like not able to hear the positives. And like, the way you told it made me start to believe those things myself.
Hmm.
Like, like when you told your story about how it was for you out there, like, and how you felt about yourself, I was like, well, if he can do that, I can do that. And it
Exactly.
just gave me the hope that if, other people are doing it, it can be done.
Right, and that's the key thing, what I mean. And I try to tell people, when I do share, I don't get that deep into, the graphics of what I've
No,
been doing and
yeah,
all that. But I know deep down inside that when I was out there using, you know, it was crazy.
yeah,
It wasn't for the average person. The
no,
stuff I was doing, the average person just don't do.
no,
But that's what I had to do to get one more. And I don't have to talk about all them type of things, but I need to let people know that it was bad.
yeah,
It was very bad. And some people's story, I'm sure, is worse than mine. Some people's story might not be as, as
right,
horrifying as mine was. But the fact of the matter is that this thing works,
yep,
because for me, if I can do this, and I remember, like you said, I remember sitting in my room one time, and I started using a certain drug, and then all of a sudden I was like, Oh, I know I'm gonna be in trouble, like trying to detox off of this and off of that. I'm building up a habit and whatnot. And I would just tell myself, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna have to get myself off of this one
Yep.
day. And then in the back of my mind, I'm sitting there like, I didn't want to use the drug.
Yeah.
I wanted to get help, but I was afraid that I was gonna have to deal with the detox
Yep.
so much that I was like, "Wow, that's what was stopping me
It's
from
true
going
though.
in." I
Yeah.
would have went in a lot
Me
earlier if I
too.
would have just like said, man up and just deal with it. But
Yeah.
I had to go through it a little bit to get where I'm at, and I always applaud myself because I try not to rush things in this process and just take them as it is, and I let my higher power just guide me through this.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing now when I'm able to go out to treatment centers and talk to people like that. This is all his work, you know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
just sitting here, I'm the vessel. I'm just sitting here
Yeah.
and trying to show people that, you know what I mean, it is possible. So yeah,
I like going inpatient because I feel like that's where they need it the most.
mhm,
Like, that's where they're coming in and their families are mad or they have nowhere to go or they were living on the streets. Like, they've just come from the worst point of their life. And if we can show them a little glimmer of a light at the end of the tunnel,
right.
like, and set them up for like success, like, hey, do
Mhm,
IOP, do PHP, do it all. Like,
right.
do whatever they tell you to
Yeah,
do. Cause I guarantee it's going to be better what you decided. Like, cause what we were
absolutely.
doing didn't work. So listen to somebody else,
Right.
like, and I feel like catching them impatient is like the perfect time to like give them this message because you
Mhm.
can give it to them real and they're in a safe place. They can deal with it as it comes.
Right, and like I was sharing the last episode, I was telling Rachel how like at this point in time, I didn't have nothing left but to continue in all these PHPs, IOP, OP, because before I would always rush back out
Hmm.
there. But this particular time, I ain't had nowhere to rush to. I ain't had no home to go to.
Yeah.
I ain't had no job. Family didn't want me back. So I really needed to sit down and actually take advantage of this. And I'm just so grateful that this particular time, after years and years of treatments, that this particular time I actually sat down because when I sat down and put my mind to it, just like I was when I was using. I was
Yeah.
the best user out there
Yeah. Right.
because I put my mind to it. I knew how to manipulate and get
Yeah.
drugs all day
Very
long.
resourceful people we were. Yeah.
Right. So when I sat down and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it right with how to help myself," and I do believe that these programs are set up for a reason why they have PHP, extended care when you got a treatment,
Yeah.
IOP and then OP and all that. There's a reason why it's set up that way because it works.
Right. Right.
Before, I was stopped in the beginning before I even got to PHP.
Yeah.
I done a week of that, felt a little bit better,
Yeah.
got some clothes and all that, and I was right back out there,
Yeah.
trying to go get a job, and rushing everything. But when I sat down this particular time and done everything right, that's how I got the most success I have ever when trying to get clean.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel so much better because now I just use all that time and energy and know that the things I learned while I was in those classes I can still like relate to them today,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things I loved about R&D, like, they didn't rush me out of there, like my IOP,
Right.
like, and I joked, I used to, like, tap on the window and they were like, "You have to go now, like, fly, little birdie," and I was like, "I wanna stay because like,
Right.
it was such a space that I needed and I never knew I needed.
Mhm.
Like, just people like me that weren't judging me, didn't make me feel like less than, weren't, like, looking at the worst thing I ever did and said, 'That's who you are forever.' Like,
Mhm.
they were seeing me for who I was, and it was a space that I could just go get it all out, like, just
Right.
unload, and they were with me and like we did fun things and stuff and
Mhm.
we had such bonding experiences. I still meet up with the IOP group that I had. We go get like pizza,
Right.
once a month
Right.
or something. We try to meet up and like I never would have thought I would have gotten that out of that experience and
Mhm.
I probably would have done the same thing. But 30 days just isn't enough.
It's not.
I didn't use
It's
for
not.
30 days. Most of us
Right.
didn't. It's just
Exactly.
not enough. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and I believe and agree with that so much, like I just know that, it's a long process,
It is.
and
Yeah.
it's not I don't try to rush to the end of this process. This is something I gotta do for the rest of
Yeah.
my life. There's no ending, but if I continue to help people on a daily basis, this is who I am.
Yeah.
A lot of people see me for who I was growing up and stuff like that. Even though I used to try to help people and do stuff in the neighborhood and all that, but this is actually who I am, this person now, because back then I probably was just doing something for another reason.
Yeah.
I do all this out of my heart, you know what I mean? Like with all this stuff, like going to go help people, I don't mind taking the time off and going here and doing this. I don't get rewarded for this,
No.
like
Yeah.
going to get gas and people pay you and all. No, I do this out the kindness of my
Right.
heart. You know what I mean? This is what I want to do because not only am I helping somebody else, I'm helping myself.
Yeah, and people always say, like, "Why don't I just get a job at the rehab I work at?" And I'm like, "Because I like being in service. I
Mhm.
like handing my number and saying, 'Call me when you get out. I'll help you find a meeting.' Like,
Right.
you need an IOP, I've got the place." And I'm like, I'll wear my shirt for R&D, like, on Fridays
Hmm.
sometimes, like
Hmm.
I like that I can help, and I'm getting nothing more out of it than just helping somebody. Like,
Right.
I bring candy 3 days a week,
Yeah.
and they always
Yeah.
joke about what kind of
Uh-huh.
candy I'm bringing,
It's the
and
little things.
it's
Yeah.
the little
Hmm.
things, and it's
Hmm.
the little things because they don't feel like humans anymore.
Right.
Like, I remember feeling like that, and they're like, "I didn't feel human anymore."
Hmm.
Like, I just felt like this body was just like, just icky, like, and I just
Right.
felt like void of emotions. And then when I did, they were so chaotic that I couldn't even make sense of them. So, like, there's little things, like they always say, like, that candy like changed my day, and they just laugh, which is funny.
Yeah.
Or I say I
Yeah.
lure them in with my candy, but it
Mhm.
keeps them coming because it gives them something to look forward to. There's little tiny things, like even us as adults, it makes a difference.
Exactly. Yep. But in closing, I just want to thank you again for taking the time out of your day.
Thank
And
you.
like I said, one of the reasons why I called on you and I knew that you would be more than excited to come on the podcast is because when I see people who put the work in and still helping people and doing the same thing I'm doing, and kind of we follow the same path,
Mm,
those are the people that I want to continue to be around because when we do this work and continue to push this message to people that, you know what, no matter what, no matter how you feel, no matter what's going on in life, if you continue to do these things, if you look at what we're doing, this is the hope. So
yeah.
like I'm just happy you took the time. It wasn't even no doubt in my mind. Like you was like, whenever you're ready, I'm gonna be there. And that seems to be the way with a lot of people has been calling trying to get on the podcast.
Yeah.
They want to, help out and do these things, which make it a lot easier for me.
Yeah, because we wanna
So
share it, like, you wanna
right.
share that voice of hope and reason and that light at the end of the tunnel, because I always say, like, I wanna share what I needed so badly in those rooms, like, just a little bit of hope, and
Yeah.
that's all I had to hold on to today is hope and gratitude. They're the 2
Right.
things that I hang dearly onto.
Yeah. In closing, do you have anything you want to say to the audience or anything like that?
No, I'm Carrie, I'm a very grateful recovering addict.
Oh, I love it because that's how you start
Yep,
all,
that's how I
all
go.
your
Yep.
TikToks. What's your TikTok name so the audience?
Recovering 5 diamonds.
Okay, Recovery Five Diamonds on TikTok is her name. When you get a chance, go on there, follow her, support her page, and continue to support the podcast. And let's get to it. Thanks.